I'd like to call the December 12th meeting of the Post Falls Planning and Zoning Commission to order. If you please stand with me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody this evening. Again, a reminder that if you would like to speak, to make sure to go to the back to fill out paperwork to turn in, and to please silence your cell phone. With that being said, we'll go ahead and do roll call.
Hampe. Here. Bishop.
Here.
Latham.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Carey. Here. Steffensen.
Here.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda this evening?
There is none.
Okay. Ceremonies, appointments, announcements, and presentation. I would like to take this time to welcome our newest Planning and Zoning Commissioner, James Steffensen. James, welcome. Glad to have you on board. And for those of you that did not meet Sam Bishop last month, you are now the veteran. Fantastic.
Wow. Didn't take long.
Declaration of conflict. Any declaration of conflict this evening? Okay.
None.
None? All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Mr. Manley.
Yeah, item A is the minutes from the November 14, 2017 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes. And item B is the findings of facts, Meadow Grove final PUD, file number PF-17-03.
I would move to present the meeting minutes from last month as presented.
I second.
All right. Call for a vote.
Steffensen.
Aye.
Carey.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Latham.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Hampe.
Yes.
All right. That moves us on to citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an issue that is not on the agenda. Comments on the issues of the plan.
Excuse me, Chairman?
Yes.
I believe that motion only referenced the minutes. There wasn't a reference to the findings of fact.
Let's go back to that then.
Oh,
Make sure we
good
cover
point.
that.
Do we want to redo that motion? Facts and findings?
Yes, I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but I will move to approve the meeting minutes from 11/14/17 from last month, along with the findings of fact included with those meeting minutes,
Okay.
if I did that correct.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's try this again.
Okay. Steffensen.
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Latham.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Hampe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for legal counsel to make sure and catch that. Very nice. Again, citizen issues. Anything that's planned for future meetings, we'd ask that you would hold till future meetings. Any citizen issues this evening? Okay, none being said, that'll move to unfinished old business. Do we have any, sir?
There is none.
There is none, so that will take us to item number 10, which is public hearings. We have 4 this evening. Before we start the first public hearing, I just want to make sure and clarify that those of you that are here this evening wishing to speak on the amendment on Crown Point is that we are talking this evening about a variation of 65 units. So if you are here to speak about the 200 units of multifamily, that was something that was taken care of via City Council December 21st in 2010. So tonight we are speaking about the 65 unit variation, and we will go ahead and open things up. Mr. Manley to present.
Good evening, Chairman Davis and other members of the commission. John Manley, Planning Manager here with the City of Post Falls, introducing the Crown Point Smartcode Amendment, case file SCA-17-02. The owner partner for this development is Tom Anderl, and the applicant is Lake City Engineering. The requested action is for an amendment to the approved regulating plan for the Crown Point development. Was formerly called the Ashworth development, and it's to shift some housing units from the single family to multifamily. I'll go into the details here a little bit more, what that consists of. Looking at this is the overall Crown Point plan called for a total of 650 housing units, 450 being single family. The remaining 200 were allocated for multifamily. So their currently plan is to construct, ultimate build out 385 single family homes. So that difference between the 450 and the 385, that's 65 housing units. Part of this is because they develop larger lots throughout the development, and I can explain that as I go through that staff report where that occurred. The intent is to move some of that 65 units to the multifamily, the 200 that was approved. And with that, it would also increase some of the land area, which goes from about 10 acres to about 14.43 acres of multifamily, potentially. So the location for this is where you see here in the red hatch. It's north of Prairie Avenue, northwest of that intersection between Spokane Street and Prairie. Here you get a look at the zoning. The lighter purple, that's the Smartcode SC3. That's your Smartcode allows a lot of variability in its single-family development pattern. You see a mix of some alley-loaded SC3 product on the east, some centrally located alley-loaded with some larger lots along this area to the west, and then you go back into more of your stereotypical SC3 housing product along this location here where I'm pointing with the cursor on the west side of the project. The darker purple, those are SC4. The intent of the SC4 was to have a little bit more mix of medium density and higher density development located closer to that intersection of Spokane Street and Prairie. Here you can look at the phasing plan that went with that original approval. And so for the most part, they've worked from phase 1 to 2 to 3, and they're kind of working their way back towards the Spokane Street, which ultimately will end up to the north side. Also, you can see here that a part of this development, there is a city park here highlighted at this location with the cursor, centrally located. It's about 4 acres. And there's also with this plan about a 1 acre park to be located within that area of discussion for the multifamily. This is the approved conceptual plan that went with that packet. I took it a little excerpt here. There were some mixed-use structures identified, and you can see up here in the text that it did reserves, if they so chose, to do some low-impact retail, deli, coffee shop, or a convenience store, with on the left or the west side of that red line, that being the site for the multifamily. So going back to the requested area for the 265, that would be the area bound by Crown Point Street, Moorfield Avenue, Spokane Street, and then Prairie Avenue to the south. So that would be the increase that's the increase from 10 to 14.43. And at this stage, it was a guesstimate, the 10 acres. So that's where we stand with that, with the request. Here's the matrix of what was requested and what the original intent was from a phasing perspective, what the community could realize. Looking at the 10 acres, so it was 200 units on 10 acres. So that comes out about 20 dwelling units an acre. And so if they were to do the 265 on the 14.43, that would be 18.36. So one could argue that it would be a reduction in density, increase in units, but a decrease in density. And as a side note, also in conventional zoning in Title 18, R3 is a zoning district for multifamily, and that's at 18 dwelling units per acre. So the proposed 18.36 is very similar to what you could see in the conventional zoning at 18 dwelling units an acre. I've kind of gone over the first two a bit through the presentation. discuss this as far as what's the impact on the transportation network. You know, the engineering division did comment within the staff report, did cite that it would be a negligible impact on the transportation network. Because if you remember, the original project was for 650 housing units, so there's still plan to still build 650 housing units. And it's also compatible with the adjacent road classifications, the project. And went over the 650 total housing units. So that sums the staff report on the project. Do you have any questions for me with any of the details that were in that or concerns?
Okay, I do. I have a question on the density. So the additional 65 units will be in maybe up to 4 acres additional that they're going to, more land they're going to have, right? Is that how I'm?
Yeah. I mean, it's going from the 10 acres to the 14.43 that was cited within, the 10 was referred to in a table within the original narrative.
Yeah. So they're adding another 65 acres and just
No,
with
not
4.
65 acres.
I mean 65 units with.
65 units.
With not quite 4 more acres, right? Okay.
So that is what is currently what its use is, right there. What we're seeing up there is currently, that was the plan that they have now before any changes would be made if they.
In a very crude conceptual way, this was the plan. I mean, at this stage, we're not, expecting to digitize those footprints and that the structure would be at that exact location. But from a overall picture, yeah, that was the plan was to locate 200 multifamily units at that location with the mixed-use structure on the east side.
So where are the single family then?
Okay, so that was an excerpt that I took from that because it was pertaining to this matter. They did go into, as part of that, these other, right here, they did have within that discussing the types of single-family homes, how they would interact with the alleys and the variations of single-family structures that could occur.
Okay. But originally, you said that they want to take out, they don't want to put in the additional 65 houses, single-family. They want to instead do multifamily. Where were those additional 65 single families going to go?
So when I refer to those larger lots that were developed, if they proceeded to develop like they did in their first few phases with those smaller lots, I can't speak for the developer, but it was presumably they would have yielded the 450 if they would have created larger lots at this location. I mean, smaller lots.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay.
So, but because they chose to meet market conditions, I presume, and because they were an attractive product, they increased the lot sizes, I believe.
Okay.
And so now when they're looking at what the yield is when they get to the ultimate end, they're looking at going, well, once we finish out the single family, we're going to be short 65 from the 650.
Okay.
What's the possibility to basically transition those 65 units in an area that was already approved for multifamily and add, and it looked like it could potentially be 3 buildings. I didn't look at, I mean, I don't have the building plans to know.
Right, okay.
But it could be an additional 3 buildings maybe.
Okay, could you show again the layout of the development? Yeah. So 3 more buildings in there somewhere, estimate?
Mm-hmm. Assuming, you have 24 units to a building, 65 units, something along those lines. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Thank you, sir. Applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Drew Dittman, Lake City Engineering, 126 East Poplar Avenue. the City of Coeur d'Alene. Thanks, John, for your presentation. Couple of points I want to hit home. Chairman Davis right away said we're not asking for a zone change. It's zoned SC4. We're working within the confines of that SC4. Let me back up a little bit and give some history of this. So this is the project as it stands today. We've currently built about 320 single-family homes. We just got our final review comments actually today from Rob and Bill and the engineering staff on the final phase, the final 65 single-family lots. So this coming spring, we will have built out all the possible single-family homes that we can, given the layout of the site, which will be 385 single-family homes. The original approvals, which as Chairman Davis said was 7 years ago, almost to the day, was for 450 single-family units, 200 multifamily units, as I've got shown, for a total of 650. All we're asking is we didn't use the full 450 single-family units. We were 65 units short. We would like to allocate those to multifamily, which is that area that's highlighted in red there that John had showed the map on earlier, to take the multifamily count to 265. So the overall unit count of the project stays the same as it was approved. The overall density of the project stays the same as it was originally approved 7 years ago. So we're not asking for any density increases or any unit count increases or anything like that. This was the original regulating plan that was approved in 2010. And with Smartcode, as you guys know, we're not required to submit a traditional preliminary plat that shows all the lots and the lot sizes. It's more of a fluid project. And as John said, as we started developing this project to meet some of the market conditions, we've made some of the lots larger and kind of mixed up lot sizes a little bit. And that's how we ended up with the 385 units versus the 450 as proposed. However, we did show 200 units of apartments on the original plan. That's the area you can see in dark purple there that John had showed. So all we're asking for is to reallocate those additional 65, or not even additional, those 65 units to the multifamily site. John touched on the density stuff, so I won't go over that again. And he talked about traditional zoning allows 18 units to the acre, so we're really in accordance with traditional zoning, even though we are Smartcode. I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Actually, Drew, I was just looking, are you guys in the 5th phase right now? Is that correct?
We are on yes, we're under construction on the 5th addition, which is actually the 6th phase.
Okay.
So I don't have the phasing map in my plan,
That's
but
fine.
John had it. I think phase 3, if I'm not mistaken, John, ended up being 2 separate phases, a 3A and a 3B. So
Okay.
we ended up, I think, with one more phase than we thought we would, but again, market conditions drove that. So.
Yeah. And that was kind of my question, because I noticed that in the documentation that it said phase 4 and phase 5 was where those 200 units.
Best laid plans, yeah.
Exactly. So, okay.
Any other questions for me?
So just to be clear.
Yep.
There are going to be apartments there regardless. I mean, it's the plan to put apartments there and always has been.
Always has been from day one to put apartments on that site outlined in red. Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay.
As allowed in the SC4. It's an outright allowed use in the
Okay.
SC4 zone, apartments are.
Okay.
So,
Is there enough space, land there for on-site parking for the additional 65 units?
absolutely.
Other questions? No?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dittman. Public comment. Take those 4. Is that all of them, or is that 4? All of them, all? Okay, so no 4. We have no neutral, but it looks like we have a few in opposition. I'll go ahead and start. We have 2 that have noted that they do not wish to speak. Mitzi Lindstrom wishes to express, due to congestion on Prairie Avenue, I have concerns about high traffic that apartment complex would add. No additional access road will be added as well. Also, Robert Winstrom wishes not to speak but is in opposition. I have concerns regarding the increased traffic in the area with only one access road and decrease in property values. And then Cheryl Moeller, you were in opposition, and I see, is it a maybe that you wish to speak, or do you not wish to speak? If you wish to speak, we'll just have you come up, say your name, address, and you have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, or evening, I guess. Cheryl Moeller, my address 8557 North Scottsworth. The concern, I think, at this point was that no disclosures were made. I come from a state where disclosures are extremely detailed, and even the most seemingly insignificant disclosure is made. There was nothing ever spoken of that plot of land, and so it's somewhat of concern because when we find out, we're of course concerned about not only the traffic, concerned about the architecture of what they're going to look like, the landscaping. All of that enters into the value of what our homes are going to be worth. People don't like to live near multifamily units. So the fact that 65 more units are going in throws the skew. You know, we've gone from where 2/3 of the homes in there are single family to almost half. I'm concerned also about the ingress and egress. I don't think that the infrastructure is going to carry that. Those streets are narrow, and the one that is east, furthest east in Canto, is only one way. It's a one lane so far, and then it goes into 2 lanes. When you're adding how many people, what is the density of the 265? As far as bodies, are they 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom apartments? How many people? Do we have any
We can have
idea?
the applicant afterwards and rebuttal. The applicant can cover that.
Okay. So rather than look at units, I think we need to look at number of bodies and people. And if we've got 2 3-bedroom units and the people are of driving age, we've got a multitude of cars. Who manages it? What kind of CC&Rs are there going to be? You know, all that kind of stuff is hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
When will that information be available to us?
I can speak to the landscaping and the design of the structure. Those usually are done at the time of site plan development. They're usually not germane to the zoning aspect of the project or the density. So we would get that at the time of site plan, which is at the administrative state. But we do have the fire marshal who is involved, the fire department, and making sure they get the appropriate ingresses for emergency services as part of that. So
Some of the other questions that you asked is the very reason that we do a rebuttal, so the applicant can actually get up and address some of those things afterwards. So
Great.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
your
time.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, one individual in opposition that does wish to speak. Last name is Arman.
Good evening. Tig Arman, address 8455 Scottsworth Street. We have been residents of Crown Point since 2015. At the time that we moved in, we specifically asked the realtor, and we had 2 different ones we were working with, if there was going to be apartment complexes. We were told very distinctively No. So that was one of the reasons we decided to build in that area. Hallmark Homes is a great developer, or a great contractor that allows for people in Post Falls to have houses that are brand new, quality homes, new first-time homeowners to be able to be homeowners, and exactly what we need. The concern about adding the units of apartments is we're encouraging this swinging door here instead of encouraging people to be lifelong residents of Post Falls. So getting rid of 65 single-family units is going to highly impact the fact that we're not encouraging people to be part of our community. We just are kind of filtering them through the community. The biggest concern at this point, again, that has been said 4 different times, is the traffic. It's a one-way in and a one-way out. After living here since '99, there's a lot of developments that do have apartments attached to them, but they have multiple accesses into the development on the north side as well as the south side. We do not have that, nor do I see that in the plans. Back in 2014, Hallmark was marked as saying that they were a quality development that was looking to have people there for being homeowners, and at the archive of the Coeur d'Alene Press back from 2014, they said that this development opened in March of 2012, and yet you guys are telling us in 2010 you knew at that point that there was going to be multi-units that we were never aware of. New families just signing 3 weeks ago were never informed that that was going to be the case. So we've been misled on this, and then the traffic again is the biggest concern. What are we going to be doing with the law enforcement to increase so that we are making sure that our crime is staying stable in our area with the influx of these apartments? So a lot of different concerns coming from the neighbors as I canvassed last night to remind everybody of this meeting this evening. The final thought on this, it says in that article from the Coeur d'Alene Press back in 2014, it was going to be 5 phases with 450 by the time the final phase is complete. And now again, nowhere in that article did it say anything about the multi-unit complexes. So please just take that into consideration when you think about approving this, because you're giving up on 65 families that could be lifelong residents here, have their kids in the system, being productive for our community instead of a swinging door component. And again, please address how you're going to handle the traffic in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No others wish to sign up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and open it up for rebuttal.
Was that on the first page?
Thank you, Chairman Davis. Again, Drew Dittman for the record. A couple things I want to touch on. Again, clarify, the original project was approved for 650 units in total. We're not changing that number. We're just kind of reallocating some units. And I guess I want to talk a little bit about the 65 units. As I said earlier, at the end of this phase that we're going to be building in the spring, we'll have 385 houses. That's it. That's all the plans we have. That's all the land we have for single-family homes. So we can't build an additional 65 single-family homes. We're out of phases. The only phase we have left is the multifamily phase, which we're talking about. That's why we're asking for those 65 units to be allocated to multifamily. So again, the overall unit count is not changing. Traffic, I understand traffic is a concern, and I'll let Rob or Bill perhaps come up and address this, but according to, and I'm going to get technical a little bit, the ITD trip generation manual, and correct me in my numbers if I'm wrong, Rob, a single-family home is about 9.6 trips per day on average. An apartment unit is about 6.6 trips per day. So apartments are slightly less on an average daily count than single-family homes are. And I know that was talked about in the staff report. There was a comment from the engineering staff in there about traffic. And there are 2 points of access. You can see Crown Point Street and then Spokane Street eventually will be extended, and that intersection will be done. And I know the Highway District has plans for a new roundabout at Chase and Prairie as well to help alleviate that. And with that, I can answer some questions for you. I think Mr. Magnuson wanted to come up and address a few issues. Did you, John? Yeah. Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, my name's John Magnuson, P.O. Box 2350, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I am, along with Mr. Andrew, one of the project developers here. Mr. Andrew and I have been involved in this project since we acquired the property in 2007. It's about 7 years ago tonight. We were in front of the council for annexation and approval. We were one of the first Smartcode projects, if not the first Smartcode project in the city. I appreciate citizen comments, and I've read the written comments. I respectfully disagree with any sort of lack of knowledge or information. When this particular project was proposed, being a Smartcode project, it was made subject to the terms of a master development agreement, which was recorded 6.5 years ago in April as a matter of title that shows up on every lot created and sold in Crown Point. That specifically noted everything that has been described to you today about the 450 single-family allowed density and the 200 allowed density on the multifamily site, with where the multifamily site is with a map shown. We subsequently, in order to make all plans for this integrated community development transparent, recorded prior to the sale of any lot, the covenants, which were recorded 7 years ago this month, or 6 years ago this month. The covenants, specifically state on the first page that this is a 450 single-family residential development with a multifamily component. It also specifically provides that the multifamily component is specific and distinct, and that, and frankly, in all fairness, it actually says that by buying a home in this particular development, you acknowledge the existence of the multifamily and essentially agree to abide by that. I mean, I could quote the exact language, but it's a matter of public record. So anyone who bought a house out of the units created today, I mean, that's shown on your title commitment, it's shown on your title policy. I can't do any more than put it out there as a matter of record, fairly, objectively, clearly on page 1 of the covenants that there's a 200-unit multifamily component of the development. So we have done that. I certainly heard from Mrs. Mueller, I believe it is, and we don't sell houses, we sell lots. If there was one realtor who made such a representation, I'm unaware of it. I take her at face value, but certainly anyone who closed their particular purchase and prudently read their documents would know what the rules are, and that's just it goes with everybody's property. So we have been transparent and open at all points in time, and the density that we're seeking is simply consistent with what was originally approved and harmonious with what the zone would be had we not been a Smartcode project. So.
Any questions?
Could you tell me where the access and entrances to the development will be again?
The
entrance to the development and stuff?
Well,
or to the apartment part of it.
I'd have to defer to Drew. I don't know if that's been determined.
Again, Drew Dittman for the record. As John said, it actually hasn't been determined yet on the preliminary plans, and I do apologize. This is very, very hard to see. But the entrance was conceptually, when this was done back in 2009, 2010, if you can see the cursor, there's an entrance right here, and there's also an entrance right here. Access to Prairie Avenue is obviously limited to the two streets, Spokane Street and Crown Point Street, that we have, and that's due to traffic concerns. But there will be several access points to any proposed development in there. The site plan is obviously not fixed at this time, but the fire marshal will require multiple accesses to that. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Questions for staff before we close this out? Okay, we'll go ahead and close it. Nancy, do you want to start? Any questions, comments? This is a chance for us to chat.
Do I have a choice if I start or not?
I was trying to go easy, but you can go down.
Well, I can sympathize with some of the homeowners who feel like they were in the dark about the multifamily. I mean, I've seen that happen before, and I think it makes for a lot of bad feelings. I do believe that since this is and always was going to be multifamily, that the addition of 65 units probably is not out of line to ask. And I kind of see both sides of it, but I think it does fit. The density still actually comes in a little below what it originally was, which is a good thing. And I think that I lean towards that I would probably vote for it.
Sam, anything to add?
Well, the original agreement of, what were the numbers on the single families?
450 single originally.
So we had that was agreed upon. Then, the lot sizes changed. They should have kept that in mind. We still need 450 single-family residents in this area. I would probably decline this amendment.
Okay. Mr. Latham.
Yeah, my thoughts about it. Single-family homes, they're decreasing a little bit, but they're adding some of the multifamily. But the overall density, not only the density, but the number of units is not changing. And so, seeing that they're keeping the multifamily in the same area and they're not moving that to another area or expanding that footprint of that multifamily, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a little more of a splitting hairs, but I do empathize with those people who bought homes that had some misinformation on that issue. It's too bad to hear. Don't like to hear that.
Vicki?
Yeah, I kind of agree too. I think that the addition, it should work. And I don't think we've been told traffic won't be increased anymore with the multifamily than it would be if you had that many single family in there. So I tend to agree with that.
I kind of agree with Sam when they started making these different lot sizes, and I understand there's reasons why they should have kind of took that into consideration, because people have strong feelings about multifamily, especially around apartments. So I probably decline this one.
It's extremely frustrating, and this is not the first time that this has happened in the sense of having individuals come forward saying, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on with multifamily? Because they were not told from the very beginning. It's extremely frustrating. The unfortunate thing is that's not a city, staff, county, a commissioner situation. The reality of it is that you're looking at 385 units, 64 more units that are apartments that realistically are going to have an actual lower traffic impact than if those 65 homes would have been built. I definitely have to look at that. But again, I go back to extreme frustration, and I feel bad for the individuals because they weren't made aware. But I have been made aware of individuals that did buy homes that was very, very clear from the beginning that there were 200 units of multifamily there. So a lot to think about. So I would open it up for a motion at this time.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for Crown Point Smartcode Amendment, SCA-17-02, to approve as presented.
Motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Second. Call for vote.
Hampe,
Yes.
Bishop,
No.
Latham,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Steffensen.
No.
Okay, that leads us to the second public hearing. So we're going to go ahead and open up Chase Acres Annexation File Number A-17-06. Tavis to present.
Good evening, Commissioner Davis, Commissioners. Tavis Schmidt, Associate Planner with the City of Post Falls. I'm presenting the Chase Acres annexation this evening, case file A-17-06. The property owners are JT Holdings LLC, and the applicant is Big Sky Capital, represented by Mike Carey. The requested action this evening is to determine that the requested single-family residential, the R1 zoning, conforms to the Post Falls Comprehensive Plan, and make a recommendation of approval for the requested R1 zoning to City Council. The project is located on North Chase Road, as shown here in the red cross hatching. It is south of Prairie. Here's Prairie. Fisher is a little bit to the north of Fisher. And we've got Grange down here and the railroad in this area. This shows the existing zoning within the city limits of Post Falls. The bright yellow is R1, single-family residential. The pale yellow is R1S, which is a single-family estate zoning. The purples are Crown Pointe, the SC3 and SC4. And then the white areas are Kootenai County properties, jurisdiction, outside the city limits. This is an attempt to show the future land use here. This is all kind of a pale yellow, everything in this area here, and the with some green here. So the pale yellow is residential. That's what the comprehensive plan just states residential. It doesn't talk about at what zone there. And then green is public reserve, institutional, parks, golf courses, things like that. The parcel consists of two existing. The project consists of two existing parcels, totaling a little over 10 acres. Currently, they're large lot, single-family residential. The proposed zoning is single-family residential. Water is to be provided by the East Green Acres Irrigation District, and sewer will be provided by the City of Post Falls. Staff within the Public Services Department reviewed the proposal and found it to be within the Post Falls area of city impact. It's contiguous with the city limits, consistent with the future land use map, and consistent with the policies found within the comprehensive, transportation, and wastewater reclamation master plans. The R1 zoning designation is consistent with the surrounding areas. Staff looked at it for transportation, and the annexation and proposed land use are in conformance with the transportation master plan. Regarding water reclamation, sanitary sewer is available. The City of Post Falls has capacity and ability to serve the site at the requested zoning level, and existing capacity is not a guarantee of future service. Planning and Zoning Commission, your role is to discuss the zoning and pass a recommendation of zoning on to City Council. So I'm going to go over the three zoning criteria there. So the first one is that zoning is assigned following consideration of such items as street classification, traffic patterns, existing development, future land uses, community plans, and geographic or natural features. The second criteria is commercial and high-density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets with a higher road classification. That's not super applicable to this because they're not proposing commercial or high-density zoning. And the final criteria is limited or neighborhood commercial and lower-density residential zoning is typically assigned for properties as they proceed farther away from the higher-intensity urban activity. We received no comments from other departments or agencies. And with that last zoning criteria, I just wanted to bring up this map to show. So as we're heading north, with that last criteria, the farther we head north, we should be less intense or less dense with the residents and moving away from commercial. And so what they're proposing is the same zoning that Greenside Vistas, that's to the south and to the east. And we've got Whiskey Flats and a lot of this are in this area. And it actually would be potentially larger lots than anything in the Crown Point area, except for some of the northern ones there. At this time, I would stand for any questions you would have of me.
Questions for Tavis?
No.
Nope. Thank you. Move on to the applicant.
I'm Mike Carey, Big Sky Capital, 10063 Navion Drive, Hayden, Idaho. I don't have anything in addition to what staff has already presented, but I will stand if you have any questions about the annexation application.
Any questions at all?
No.
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Public comment. Do we have any public? For neutral again? Okay. Then there would be no need for rebuttal. Any questions for staff? Anybody else before we close this out? So we'll
Actually, I do have one question I
Yes.
forgot to ask. Did I see in there that the Hawthorne will be continued to chase?
So currently Ashworth Lane.
Is it Ashworth, yes.
Ashworth, yeah, it dead ends right about here where the cursor is. And it will, staff will require upon development the Ashworth continue to chase in some manner.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead and close that out. Open it up. Any comments at all? None? If there be none, then I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'll try it.
Okay.
I move to approve file A-17-06 Chase Acres annexation as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Vote.
Steffensen,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Latham,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Hampe.
Yes.
All right, so moved. We are halfway there, which brings us to public hearing number 3. Sachwitz annexation number, file number A-17-07.
Good evening, Commissioner Davis, Commissioners. My name is Lindsay King, with the Planning Department, City of Post Falls. I'm here to present the Sachwitz annexation, case file A-17-07. Owner is Louis G. Sachwitz, the Living Trust. Applicant is the Coeur d'Alene Group, LLC. The requested action is the Planning and Zoning Commission is being asked to review the annexation request and make a recommendation of proposed zoning of R1 to City Council along with any appropriate conditions. The property location is at 1583 East Horsehaven Avenue, located near the intersection of Horsehaven and Syringa. There's 2 parcels and it's approximately 2 acres in total, currently zoned agricultural suburban within Kootenai County. The proposed land use or proposed zoning would be R1, which is single-family residential. Water is provided by Ross Point Water, and sewer provided by the City of Post Falls. The proposed annexation is located in an infill area within the city limits. It's contiguous with existing city boundary, and the proposed R1 zoning is consistent with conventional future land use map. I'll show you a map in a few slides. This is the current slide, aerial view of the proposed annexation. As you can see, there's 2 lots there. To the north, you can see the crossing subdivision, and to the south, there is some vacant city land. Horsehaven runs east-west, Syringa north-south. This is the current zoning map of the two parcels, or of the surrounding parcels. To the north, we have our Smartcode zone, SC3, which is in the light purple, and SC4, which is in the darker purple. To the south and to the west, in the yellow, we have our single-family residential R1 zone. The white area there is still Kootenai County, so that's outside of the city limits. And our property is in the black hash there. This is the future land use map that I was talking about earlier. Everything in yellow is residential. And then the green would be public reserve, so parks and things like that. The parcel in question is right in the middle of it, in those black hashes there, a little rectangle. So you have city to the north and to the south, whole residential. The proposed annexation is consistent with the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan, as well as the future land use map. The proposed zoning are compatible with surrounding environments and compatible with adjoining street classifications. The requested zoning, so the R1 zone, is in line with the city's master plans and should not present any negative impacts to the city's infrastructure. So although this is an annexation public hearing, it is the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend zoning to City Council. So I'll go through some of the zoning criteria to base that recommendation on. So the first zoning criteria is zoning is assigned following consideration of such items such as street classification, existing development, traffic patterns, future land uses, etc. Limited or neighborhood commercial and lower density residential zoning is typically assigned for properties as they proceed farther away from any higher intensity urban activity. So these two parcels for the annexation and the specific R1 zoning are far enough away from any commercial corridors to where that would be an issue. They are essentially in neighborhood areas. The third criteria is commercial and high-density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets where with higher road classification. Now this would be closer to a commercial corridor, so it's not what we're asking for. Industrial zoning is not applicable to this at all, so it's just the fourth criteria. No outside agencies had any comments. And I'll stand for any questions or comments that you may have.
Questions, Lindsay? No questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go back to...
Applicant.
Mike Carey, the Coeur d'Alene Group LLC, 959 North Rutledge Court, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I don't have anything to add in addition to staff comments. I'll stand for any questions if there are any.
Any questions this time around?
How do you pronounce is it Schwartz or is it?
Sachwitz.
Sachwitz, okay. There you go, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comments?
One.
All right, we have one individual that wishes to speak that is in opposition, Rick Manning. Go ahead and come to the front, state your name and address. You have 4 minutes, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Rick Manning, 2069 North Travis Court. I live right on the other side of the fence of proposed annex, the red line to the east, and that's the crossing neighborhood. And I bought that house even as it was built 5 years ago, And I still enjoy the view above my window to the east. I could see the open field and sometimes see a horse there. And I wish it would not be developed as open land, and it just would. That is a dead end as it is right now. So I don't know where the access would be. The Crosby, where that public freestanding mailboxes are, and I don't know where the access would be off Horsehaven or off of Crossing Avenue or Crosby. And I'm not sure if it will decrease the value of the homes already inside that development. And is it going to be the same type of housing, or what was it going to be?
We'll allow the applicant to rebuttal to maybe touch base on that. So, okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. In rebuttal.
Do you need name again?
We're good.
So, first of all, I'd like to say, Rick, it's good to see you again. He was a great homeowner in the first project because I was involved with the Crossings project. So, I just would say that, first of all, it's a zone change request, and essentially this zone change request is based upon the fact that there is a current single-family residence on the southern 1 acre parcel and a non-conforming residence on the north 1 acre parcel, and it's the applicant's, the owner's intent to bring the properties into compliance as single-family residential homes, hence the R1 zoning classification. So there are no plans for development of the site at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Staff? Applicant? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the hearing out. Any comment? I would be looking for a motion.
Okay. I will move to recommend approval of Sachwitz annexation file number A-17-07, finding that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and requesting the zoning designation of R1.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Call for vote.
Hampe,
Yes?
Bishop,
Yes.
Latham,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Steffensen,
Yes.
Okay, so moved. That would bring us to the final public hearing of this evening, Green Meadows annexation, formerly known as Rood Annexation, file number A-17-04. Tavis to present.
Good evening, Commissioner Davis, Commissioners. Tavis Schmidt, Associate Planner, City of Post Falls Planning Department. I'm presenting the Green Meadows annexation, case file A-17-04. The property owners are Green Meadows LLC with Howard Rood and Tony and Lindsay Rood. The applicant is Verdis, and the requested action this evening is to review the annexation request, determine that the requested single-family residential R1 zoning conforms to the Post Falls Comprehensive Plan, and make a recommendation of approval to City Council. The project is located on North Greens Ferry Road, as shown here, and it's at the intersection of Killdeer Lane. So Prairie is right here. We've got Greens Ferry running north-south. Killdeer, this should take up about 3/4 of the intersection with Killdeer. And Bluegrass right here, we've got the new Greens Ferry Elementary in this location here. These properties over here are in the city limits. They're just yet to be developed. This is all county, little county peninsula heading south from Prairie. We've got the Tullamore development over here and Fieldstone in this area. This shows the adjacent zoning within the city limits. The bright yellow is R1, single-family residential, and the red is CCS, Community Commercial Services. All the white properties are within Kootenai County's jurisdiction. This shows the future land use from the comprehensive plan, and it's a very pale yellow in all of this area here, which is residential. We've got a little bit of commercial sticking up this area, and then all the dots are related to Highway 41 and being within a half mile of 41. The project consists of 3 existing parcels totaling a little over 31 acres. Currently, they're large lot single family. The proposed zoning is single family residential R1. Water is provided by Ross Point Water District, and sewer will be provided by the City of Post Falls. Staff in the Public Services Department reviewed the proposal and found it to be within the Post Falls area of city impact, contiguous with city limits, consistent with the future land use map, and consistent with the policies found in the master plans of the comprehensive transportation and wastewater reclamation. The R1 zoning designation is consistent with the surrounding areas. Regarding transportation, the annexation and proposed land use are in conformance with the anticipated development established within the transportation master plan. Regarding water reclamation, sanitary sewer is available. The City of Post Falls has the capacity and ability to serve the site at the requested zone, and existing capacity is not a guarantee of future service. Regarding the zoning criteria, again, we've heard this a couple times this evening. So zoning is assigned following consideration of street classification, traffic patterns, existing and future development and land uses, and any community plans. Commercial and high-density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets with higher road classification, and then limited or neighborhood commercial and lower density residential is typically assigned for properties as they proceed farther away from high-intensity urban activity. We received no comments from other departments or agencies. And at this time, I would stand for any questions.
Questions?
No.
No? Thank you, sir. All right. Time for applicant.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Stephanie Blaylock. I'm a land use planner with Veritas. Our address is 601 East Front Avenue in Coeur d'Alene, and we are representing the property owners in the annexation request. I will be concise and short for you since it's your fourth hearing. The subject property that we are requesting the annexation on, as Tavis mentioned, is 3 parcels, approximately about 30 acres in size. And we are asking for a single-family residential zoning designation, which is consistent with the conventional future land use map for this area. The parcels are contiguous to city limits, and the request is considered a logical extension of the city, as stated by the Planning Department in the agenda report. At the time of annexation, the property owners will dedicate the required easements and rights-of-way as outlined by the engineering department. As of this morning, there had been no written public comments submitted to the city. I'd like to point out a couple of the benefits for approving this annexation request. First is by annexing these properties, it would increase the availability of land and inventory within the city limits in an area that has seen a significant increase in development of single-family residential neighborhoods in recent years. As you can see from this exhibit, we showed 6 of the closest subdivisions. All have been recorded within the past 10 years. There is a shift from rural uses to smaller lot subdivisions, resulting in annexation and development requests in this area. As mentioned in the staff report, development is moving northward along Greens Ferry Road, and the subject properties are only a quarter-mile north of the recently built Greens Ferry Elementary School. Another benefit to the annexation is that the subject parcels will provide a critical area for pedestrian access, which in turn provides opportunities for the local kids in that area to walk to school. This annexation request is a benefit to the city, its residents, and our property owners, and we thank you for considering our request. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any public comment this evening?
No.
Okay. No need for rebuttal. Any further questions? Okay, close things out. Any comment? Suddenly gotten very quiet.
Well, I just have to agree, it's probably a natural extension to bring it into the city as we're moving that direction.
Certainly makes sense. Okay, if nobody has anything, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve file A-17-04, Green Meadows annexation with a R1 designation.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Steffensen,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Latham,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Hampe.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Manley, is there any new business this evening?
None.
Staff comments?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Any commission comments, anything for the good of the order?
No.
Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Let's do it.